welcome everybody. This is the Broadcast Sequence Communication Day panel, and it's a great pleasure to have three wonderful alumni with us today just to talk about what they do and what their lives are like. On the left of the screen there is Jason Killer Kellison. Jason works for The Ticket. He's been there since 2002. He now serves as the assistant program coordinator for the station, and he'll talk a little bit more about what he does and what his life is like. But at UTA, he hosted a weekday radio show called Culture Shock, and he was also part of the marching band and the wind ensemble as well. So he's got kind of a varied background. Raegan Cardwell at the top there is executive producer for the Emmy Award-winning morning newscast Good Day Oregon at KPTV in Portland. She got her start as an evening news producer in Medford, Oregon, where she quickly earned a promotion to executive producer. Certainly didn't surprise me. And I still recall the interview with her news director when he called asking about her. It's still very, very vivid, and maybe we'll get to talk a little bit more about that as well. But Raegan's an advocate of service learning and journalism, which was the focus of her capstone project for the Honors College. And she was a double major, too. She graduated summa cum laude with double major in journalism and broadcast communication. And then Casey Moore is an award-winning media professional. He's currently the instructional TV manager for Tarrant Community College. He graduated from UTA with a Bachelor of Arts in Broadcast Communication. He won a Gold Addy in the 56th Annual American Advertising Federation local awards competition. And probably his biggest claim to fame, at least here at UTA, was his grand prize for from the South Central Broadcasting Society, and the grand prize winner for animation 2 years in a row for the Texas Central's Texas Bullet Train student film competition. So if you haven't had a chance to see his animation, I'm sure we can put a link to that because he did some great work. So let's just start then in the order that I introduced you. And Jason, maybe just tell us briefly what it is that you do at The Ticket and how you got to where you are.
Well, basically, I am the assistant program coordinator, so I handle a lot of the weekend programming, any special programming that The Ticket has. That's KTCK, The Ticket here in Dallas. Any special programming that we do, it goes through me, and I make sure it runs smoothly. But I also am a remote coordinator for all our remote broadcasts from all over our 7-station cluster. So I handle anytime we go on the road, I'm the one who's in charge of making sure that we're on the road. So I have both programming and technical duties that I have to do basically on a daily basis. And especially right now, making sure everybody's always connected and always working is very important for me to do. Making sure that all my employees, all my weekend talent are trained up and know how to run the broadcasts and are basically being able to put together content that's going to bring listeners in every week. And there's a lot of hats that I have to wear on a daily basis. So it's really, that's the umbrella that everything I do falls under, I guess you could say.
That's great. And Raegan, you're a producer, and you were an executive producer as well. So tell us a little bit about your job.
Yeah, so right now I'm the executive producer of the morning show. So I get in bright and early, and I oversee the stories that we're doing each day, help make assignments for reporters, go through all the producers' shows, give them advice, kind of build up the stories that are bigger for that day, kind of setting the agenda for the day. And then I coordinate from there between all of the different work groups. So I work frequently with all of the reporters, all of the photographers, all of the editors, all of the talent that you see on TV, and coordinate the whole process into what you're watching when you wake up.
Wonderful. Casey, tell us about your job. So you're a little different. You're in sort of, I guess, kind of representing the corporate video sort of thing, although you're in education. But tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I'm an instructional TV manager at TCC. It's sort of like a lot of different aspects of media production put together. Sometimes that means that we'll have a client within the system want to make a video about a certain student, and then I will work within our small team to produce a news story for the Tarrant County College system, and we'll put it up online about that student. Sometimes that can mean us videotaping a conference or an event within the Tarrant Community College, some that they're holding. And a lot of this also has changed during the pandemic. Our whole conference system has been, way different than it used to be. And a lot of what I do is adapting to how much has changed since then. A lot of what I've done leading up to this point is utilized for graphics work. I could be doing animation, video production, knowing how to work microphones and different cameras. Everything kind of comes into play for my job based on what day it is we're having. So we just do a bunch of different things.
So Raegan, did you think when you were getting ready to graduate, or you were contemplating a career, that you would end up doing what it is that you're doing now?
Yeah. When I was getting ready to graduate, I was hoping at least that I would land somewhere within video production. I think what's important when you're in schooling, getting ready to graduate, is to kind of take on classes for aspects of your career that might come into play, but may not necessarily be like your career path. For instance, I was in radio production with Lance, and although I wasn't like fully sure if I would actually be into the career of radio production, what that class did teach me was how to work with audio, how to work with different microphone setups, and that comes into play within my job constantly, even though it's not necessarily like radio. All that comes into play. So,
thanks, Casey. And so Raegan, so tell us about, did you anticipate doing this? What were you thinking when you were getting ready to graduate?
Oh, I was nervous in general, just about everything. I kind of cast a wide net in college. I took classes in a little bit of everything. Dabbled a little in radio, found I wasn't that great at it. And then, you and Dr. J-Rod, you and J-Rod really steered me into producing, and I found that I liked it. So thank you. But I just kind of jumped all in. I just took a job in a place I had never been and just went and tried it and really liked it. So it worked out for me. But yeah, I had a lot of interest, and it kind of steered really well into producing, because you need to have a lot of interest as a producer.
Yeah, and Killer, you sort of took the step of jumping in even before you graduated. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, I got lucky. I came off the elevator in the department one day and saw a flyer, and I applied for the job right that afternoon and got it like 2 days later. And within 6 months I became a remote tech engineer, basically doing half of what I do now, coordinating all the remote broadcasts. But I started doing that, fell in love, and started board opping and producing at the station, doing more and more, just trying to get my hands as deep into the radio industry as possible, and just kept going. I originally wanted to be I wanted to be a band director. So doing radio stuff was just something on the side. I figured I can do PA announcements at high school football games or something like that going on in the future. And the bug bit me, and I just never went back to school. I actually literally in 2002 dropped out of school and just followed the career of radio and just got into it as hardcore as I could. And I've learned a lot, but I could keep going for hours if you wanted me to on that, but
you did come back and graduate too, we should say.
Yeah, I did come back and graduate recently. Back in 2018, I came back and got my degree, so I can say I am a UTA grad. It just took me 20 years basically to get the job done.
So we were talking a little bit off the air about work ethic and just how important that is. And some of the things that we have been stressing with our students in recent years really has been not just the hardcore technical skills, the hands-on skills, but also what people used to call soft skills. And now we're hearing, they're not soft skills, they're marketable skills. They're core competencies that students have to have. Can each of you, we'll start with you, Jason, just as you know, we were talking about it. Can you talk about the importance of some of those skills?
I think the biggest thing that I see is humility. A lot of times when we get different levels of people when they come in right out of college, if you come in thinking you're going to be the hot shot right off the bat, usually you're gonna fall down and you're going to be pushed off to the side. But if you come in with a humility and you're willing to work hard all the time and learn and listen, you're going to go a lot farther, especially in our industry, because people are going to want to work with you. I mean, I'm pretty sure Raegan and Casey can attest to this. When you have someone that comes in that feels like they should have, like I said earlier, have a hot mic in front of them right off the bat, you don't want to work with those people because they're not going to listen. They're not going to help you put out the best quality product. But if you have someone that comes in and they're wanting to listen and they want to learn and they want to actually be a part of a team and not be the face of the team, you'll get a lot more work opportunities that way, and you'll actually stick in the business a lot longer.
And Raegan, you know, you talked about us steering you towards producing, and I mean, you know, there's some things that obviously we saw in you, your ability to write and organizational skills and things like that. But I think another thing that you had was just your diligence and your ability to work well with other people. Teamwork and collaboration is incredibly important. So talk a little bit about the importance of, you know, maybe if you see that in what you're doing and again, those sort of marketable core skills that are important.
Yeah, for sure. Everything that Jason just said, 100% agree with all of that. I play a direct role in hiring at my job. You know, I'm a manager, I'm on the team. So I usually am the one to reach out for the first interview. I'm the one who calls you and says, hey, I have your application. And most of the time that first initial conversation is just me saying, you know, are you, you know, a decent human being? Can I have a conversation with you? Are you going to work well with others? Are you going to fit in well with our team? All of the writing and the technical skills, I ask about that later. I start out really just getting to know the person as a person, because it's really important that you're going to play well with us on our team, because there's so much interconnection between each of the roles in a station. You know, you're constantly asking other people for help. They're asking you for help, working together on a project, and it's a creative field, really. You do work with facts and stuff, but it's a creative field at its heart.
That's interesting. Yeah, I always tell my students when a news director contacts me and asks about a student, there are usually two questions they ask. Number one, can they write? And number two, do they play well with others? And that's really the two things that they're sort of most concerned about. And so Casey, what do you see in your position? Is that you know, those kinds of skills come into play as well?
Yeah.
Is your more a solitary job, or obviously you're working though with faculty and you're working with many different people?
Yeah. So, I mean, like y'all were saying, there's no, like, your soft skills are just as important as your hard skills. It's important not to be so hyper focused on what your position is, especially with, you know, what I do, where any given day, any given shoot, you could be working with this person or that person. It's important to sort of flex every aspect of media production, because you're not sure what's going to come into play, and working within a team is a unique challenge. I mean, every group project that I ever had at UTA, I think was sort of getting me ready for that. And there's so much on the line sometimes within a team setting, and it's just really important to sort of get used to working with others and being able to sort of become more well-rounded within different aspects of things that you're not even necessarily comfortable with. It's kind of a good thing to lean into things that you're not very well suited for, or that you're not very acquainted with. So I believe that's very important.
So Killer, students are wondering, you know, looking at the pandemic and not just the pandemic too, but just the state of radio in general. And I'm fond of telling students that people have been predicting the demise of radio almost since it started. And, in its various iterations, AM radio, then AM was going to go away because FM was going to be here. And it's people are still predicting the demise of radio, and yet it still survives, and it's still incredibly popular. But there's no doubt that there are a lot of changes, and it's a tough business. So for our students who are really wanting to get into radio, what would you tell them?
First thing I would say is be patient, because honestly, there's not a whole lot of jobs in radio. There's more jobs in the talk radio side of things than there are on the FM side. But be patient and just take whatever job pops in your lap. If you get offered a job in Oklahoma City, just because you don't want to go to Oklahoma City, don't consider not taking the job. Take the job, because the more experience you get, the better you're going to be. And it also shows that you're willing to work wherever you go. I think radio is actually coming into its own now, because a lot more radio stations are starting to accept the whole podcast wave that's been going through. A lot of the stations expect, like us for particular, we have been pulling all our best segments of the day for the past 10, 12 years and doing a top 10 show every day from the hours of 7 to 9. Well, now we have that as a full podcast that our listeners can sit there and download and listen to. And it's one of the highest downloaded things that we've got going on. But radio isn't afraid to evolve and move on and get bigger. We've incorporated streaming, like I said, podcasting, where there's a lot of radio stations even using video side now. You'll see it, a lot of the Fox, like Rich Eisen and all them, they'll have a radio show and they'll be on television as well. Whenever we go, for example, for us at the Ticket, when we go to the Super Bowl, we actually stream a webcast basically of our 4 guys sitting at a table at Radio Row. There's just 4 guys at a table, yet every time we've ever had to do it, whatever service we've had to use till this last year, we used Twitch. We've crashed their servers and we've had to get another server added on because we've had so many viewers watching our radio show, which is, to me, mind-boggling, because we're not in film. That's Raegan's job. We're radio. Nobody's supposed to be watching us. We're ugly dudes sitting at a table. But the fact that we're able to do that, and we don't box ourselves in and just say, you're only going to hear us in your car or on your way to work. No, we're finding ways for you to listen to us when you're at work, because we know that you got to have something to get you through the day, and you can't watch TV, you can't watch a movie all day, but you can listen to your phone. You can listen to the Sports Day app and hear the Ticket all day. You can annoy that guy in the cubicle over when you start to giggle and laugh at something that Corby's saying at 3:15 in the afternoon during Why Today Doesn't Suck. And that's the fact that, that's who we are. We keep reinventing and keep coming up with new things every day to keep things going, to keep our listening base. So I don't think radio, I think I kind of diverged off your initial question, but I think radio is actually coming into its own and getting stronger and stronger every day, because we're accepting more and more of the different platforms that we can put our product out there.
No, I think that's great. And for you to survive, you've got to be able to move with the times. You've got to embrace technology and not resist it. Podcasting does take us back almost to the glory days of radio, where there's just all kinds of people didn't know what they couldn't do, and so they're just trying different things. And I think that's the thing that the Ticket has done well over the years. And I know you've been a big part of it, is that you've always blazed the trail, and it's not like you've looked back at others and said, well, they're doing this, maybe we should change it. No, this is who we are, and we're going to continue doing and moving forward, and continue to be sort of a leader in the market. So it's been good.
Yeah, that's something else. Like all our part-time guys, all our weekend hosts, that you're not part of the Prime 9, which is our main hosts, they all are part of some type of a podcast, and they're all working and making themselves better. And the management, we actually do go and listen to all of our guys' podcasts. We might not listen to a whole hour, but we'll listen to 15, 20 minutes, and we help our guys. We're always coaching, and we're always trying to make people better, because we really do feel like we have to have a good backup team to go with our starters.
Raegan, what would you tell people who are looking to go into the TV business? I see a lot of, I still see some people who want to do news. It alarms me that there, and always has, that there are not so many people want to do news than there are, but I kind of understand it. A lot of people want to move into sort of entertainment and that kind of sphere. But from your position working at a news station, what are the opportunities and what should our students be looking for?
I mean, if you can write, you're always going to have a job in news, really, in anything, probably. We're always in need of producers. That's the #1 opening at any given point. Is a good producer is the most in-demand job, probably in the entire country when it comes to news. If you're talented and you want to be a reporter and stuff, go for it. It's exciting. There's always something to do. But I think a lot of the jobs you're going to find are probably going to be behind the scenes. On air, like I said, it's there, but there's more behind the scenes than you know. And producing, I like producing because you can write a story about so many different things just within an hour. 1 minute you're looking at Supreme Court, the next minute you're looking at wildfires and climate change, and you're going to learn a little bit about every topic under the sun. And I find that exciting. No day's the same. And just the deadline aspect of it, having a deadline at the end of the day that you have to meet, that you have to fit all of those exciting stories into, is kind of thrilling. It's a little bit of an adrenaline rush to start your day as a blank slate and then build something from that, something creative, something informative, something a lot of people are craving right now. It's a time when a lot of people are turning to news, especially local news, because you need to know what's going on in your community when it comes to coronavirus, obviously.
And so, one of the things that I tell my students, and Jason sort of talked about this as well, is that you can't put yourself in a box. And what I've noticed since coming to Texas, and particularly to the DFW area, is how much people love the DFW area, and I understand why. And they're proud to be from Texas, and DFW. There's just so much going on, and for some, the thought of moving away is just almost too much. And yet it's a necessity, whether it's moving to Tyler or to Wichita Falls, or like you did, and that's moved to the other side of the country. Just talk briefly about what that experience was like and what motivated you to do that.
Yeah, sure. In the DFW area, like you were talking about, I love it. Have family in the DFW area and still come back. I grew up in Arlington, not far from UTA. So, that was my hometown. But at the same time, looking at the job market, I knew if I wanted to work in TV and I wanted to be a producer, that job is hard to get if you're starting out in DFW, because it is a big market. You're going to start, maybe as a lowly staff member and work your way up. It might take you several years to even get your feet wet in the DFW market. Whereas, I found a job opportunity that was pretty low on the DMA ranking list, but I knew I could get in there and have my own show from the very beginning and learn all of the different jobs. It was a really small station with not a whole lot of resources. So I feel like I did pretty much every job within that station, and I really got a grasp of news, and I figured out quickly that it was something I wanted to stick with. And I think my skill level is probably higher than some of the people who started out in bigger markets and didn't get that responsibility right away, because it's hard to learn if you don't have that much responsibility given to you from the start. It really is. And Oregon, I was like, oh, at least there's hiking. If I don't, if news doesn't work out, at least I'll have something to do on the weekends to relieve some of that stress. But I really like it here, and ended up liking news, so that wasn't as much of a concern.
No, and then when we knew that you would do well, and I had never had any doubt that you would land on your feet, and it was just a matter of where. And when your news director called, I'll never forget. We were just talking about different things and things that he maybe saw in you and stuff. But the one thing he was talking about was the station being involved in the community and getting the journalists involved in the community. Mm-hmm. And at that time, you just finished your honors project, which had to do with, service learning and journalists, actually participating in community events as a way of really helping them kind of understand what the community was like. And so right then I knew it was going to be a good fit. But do you still subscribe to that kind of thought and feeling after having gotten into the industry?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Smaller markets, especially, it's super important because, as a producer, you're covering every corner of your DMA area, and you really have to know it intimately. You have to know each part of the area. You need to know what people are interested in that area. Coming from Texas to Oregon, it was, quite a jump in interest. It's completely different out here. So it's learning what your community is like, what they're craving, the information they're craving, and just getting to know people on a face-to-face basis, I think is super important. Yeah, I absolutely recommend that. Volunteering, I still do that when I can. Coronavirus is limiting that a little bit, but I think it's important.
Casey, and you're one of the most talented students that we've had come through, particularly in terms of production work and your animation work. Both Casey and Raegan were part of our Cotton Bowl teams at different years, and Casey did some great work for the Cotton Bowl project too with animation. And so if we've got a student kind of like you, at least somebody who's wanted to do more production and they've got some creativity and they're not sure kind of where to go or what to do, what kind of sort of advice would you give them?
Well, there's so much that I could say. I mean, your mileage may vary based on your own experiences, but I would rely on when I was starting out, I would kind of rely on what I was motivated to do when I was, doing production, whether I had to find the motivation within myself to be able to do something. And I found that you can't really go far just based on that. I would say that you should work on a sort of a discipline to your work and doing what is best for you, even if that makes you uncomfortable, or if it's something that you are a little unskilled at. A way I could put it is, the Cotton Bowl internship was, it was demanding. It was a very short time frame, very quick production. The quickest I've ever had to produce work was within that Cotton Bowl internship. It was very daunting, but I had to tell myself that I was disciplined enough and I knew what I was doing and that I was good at it. And I just had to put myself out there to do it because I knew it was what was best for me. And I feel like that's a big step that you have to tell yourself, is to know what's best for you and to trust in yourself and put yourself out there in situations that you may or may not feel 100% within your comfort zone in.
One thing that strikes me as I listen to you guys, and I know it myself, having been in the industry and for many years too, is one of the benefits, or one of the things that the people seem to enjoy is that, like Raegan said, every day is new. You never know quite what it is that you're going to face. Can you talk a little bit about that, Killer?
Well, I'm in, for the most part, sports, and being that we're here in Dallas, we're used to the Cowboys just losing all the time. So that part's always the same. But there are different things. There's different things that happen all the time. We don't get to go into a big wide world like Raegan does. I would love to do straight news, because that world changes daily, hourly, minute. Every minute's different. The sports world that we have to cover, we have to go find all the different nuances and dive hardcore and expose. We have to pull everything out that we possibly can out of different stories. And in Dallas, it's Cowboys, Cowboys, Cowboys. Right now, you get Cowboys, Cowboys, Cowboys stars, but tomorrow it might be different. But I would say, like, my world, it is different daily, but there's still a format that we have to follow because it's sports, and your sports listeners in radio or television, they want to hear about their main team, their main care. And right now, that's always going to be the Cowboys here. I keep coming back to them, unfortunately, and I'm sorry about that. But like I said, you have to find, like we had talked about earlier about radio surviving and thriving. You have to find new ways to explore the different realms of the sports, different situations that are happening. You have to find different ways. With the BLM movement right now, it's been really, really interesting to watch how the sports world has reacted and what they've done in that realm. With the coronavirus, the same way. Like, you can give, if you could take what the NHL and the NBA have done with their bubbles and put that out in the world, everything would be so much better. That's going to political stuff, so we're not going to go there. But those little things, like going in and diving in and explaining why those things are working like they have and why they've been a success, and why, like, Major League Baseball had so many issues coming up. Those parts are kind of fun to find out the reasoning behind, but there's so few of those compared to what Raegan gets to deal with. I'm super jealous of Raegan right now, if you can't tell. She gets to live in Oregon and hike and all that fun stuff, and I have concrete I get to walk down every day, you know? But,
well, I broke my leg hiking last year, so don't be too jealous.
oh, no.
Oh, man.
Story for a different time.
Oh, no.
Oh. So I
hope. Yeah.
No, I'm done.
Listen, I just want to thank you guys so much for your time and for your input and what you have to say, and what you've been able to share with us and with the students. And I just I was just kind of curious. What is there one thing about your job that maybe somebody on the outside looking in wouldn't know or appreciate, that you want to go, hey, this is really cool. This is something that's really neat about my job. Raegan, you want to take a stab at that?
Oh, start with me. There's a lot. I think a lot of people watch TV and they just see the anchor and they're like, oh, the anchor's it. They think the scripts are magic. They come up like the anchors write everything and know everything. But there's so many people that go into that, which I think is fascinating. How many different people contribute to a single show and a single moment in a show, and the charisma between the different anchors and how that plays into the show, especially on a morning show. That's kind of a fun element of being on the morning show. But just the amount of work that goes in, the amount of expertise in different areas. We have one of our producers is really into sports. So every time a sports story comes up, I'm tapping on his shoulder and seeing what he thinks. Whereas there are just different interests among the whole team. We have another that's interested in entertainment, who wanted to be an entertainment reporter originally, but it didn't work out for her, but she found a passion in producing those kinds of stories for news as well. So there's a place for all interests, and a lot goes into each show.
What about you, Casey? What would somebody be surprised about to learn about your job, or if they're wondering, what on earth does a instructional television manager do? What can you sort of? Yeah.
Well, I think one of the most gratifying parts of what I do is being able to see, and it's kind of hard to visualize sometimes how a big event comes together and how everyone contributes to it in their own way. And I saw that a little bit during the Cotton Bowl, because you see all these small teams go and produce something. One part that really illuminated it for me was last year. We had an event called the Chancellor's Breakfast at TCC, where we kind of got all the campuses people to come to one location and have an event where we celebrated different people within the organization and people who had been there for a very long time. And it was illuminating to see how how many different people within media came together to make something like that. I animated before the event all these outro cards and intro cards for videos to be used, where I would animate transitional scenes that go between when the chancellor is talking, and behind it would display like the goals and principles of the organization. And meanwhile, while the presentation's happening, I'm on the sidelines shooting, like sweeping camera angles and stuff. And as this is happening, you get to see your own work on the screen, and everyone's watching it with you. And it feels really gratifying to have that experience. And afterwards, you'll have people who work for TCC be like, man, did you do that work? That was awesome. And that never gets old, having people impressed with you as a producer, and to have so many people be a part of the community and looking at what you did, that never gets old for me. And I'm constantly reminded of that when it comes to events like that. And some of that has changed during the pandemic, because obviously we're not going to just gather a whole ton of people into a small space anymore.
Why not?
Why not? I don't know. Yeah, they don't explain it. They just say we're not doing it. No, but you still see that, at least on a micro scale, where at least you're gathering footage of people within their own rooms and putting them together. But it's still gratifying. Yeah, that's the part of my job that I like the most.
Hey, Killer, what do you like? Now, you sound, let me just say that people listening to the ticket, the one thing that I think that the people really enjoy is, again, just the fact that they seem like real people. You seem like you relate really well to the average person, and that you're all having a good time. Is that really what it's like?
It's like that, and it's even when the mics go off, the jokes don't stop. It's a clubhouse 24/7. Like you'll get text threads between the guys and stuff. Everything behind the scenes is so much fun. And I talked about earlier about always constantly reinventing, thinking of new ways to do things, getting the quality product out there. That's the thing that I find the most exciting, is because I never know what's the next day on what we're going to be doing. Who's going to come up with an idea of something new? Like a couple of weeks ago, we did because we haven't been able to do the big station events like we've always done. We've always had a big summer bash and a ticket stock and big events where all our listeners can come out and meet us. So we did a giant Zoom meeting and let all of our listeners sit and go to our website and Facebook Live and watch our Zoom meeting with all 9 guys. And that was so much fun figuring out how to make that happen, which was a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be from the original. But stuff like that we constantly do, and then seeing it work is always the best experience, and always helping the guys figure out the next step, the next way to go. That's the most rewarding thing, I think it is, because I mean, Raegan and Casey can attest. It's always fun doing something new and finding a new way to get your stuff out there. It's so much fun.
Well, guys, thanks so much. Jason, Raegan, Casey, I really, really appreciate it. It was, Casey and Raegan worked with you, had you in class. Jason, this is the first time, but I've enjoyed meeting you. And just, on behalf of all of the faculty and the students at UTA, we're proud of you. We're grateful that you're out there flying the UTA flag, and I know representing us well. And thanks so much for being a part of Communication Day. We really appreciate it.